Hello again, it's me in the kitchen. So what do we have today? We have a Dahl curry, which is a lentil based one. Now, I don't mind curry. We're quite big fans of curry in the household. But this is yet another vegetarian recipe. I'm sure she's trying to kill us. Calls for and once again we are going to be doubling the amount in the recipe. So it calls for 1 onion. It doesn't say what size. So I'm going to make it 2. Unlike a meat curry, where you know your meat chunks are relatively large, therefore you would probably just roughly cut your onion, because it is lentils and they are a far smaller grain. I am going to be going for finely chopped, so that we've got sort of like a consistency and size. Going to be using the wok again. I do like doing it on the wok because you get a far more even heat and it tends not to burn. Now this recipe does actually call for salt, so pinch of salt there, well, sprinkle. Onions go in, again just making sure that I'm getting all of that hot oil up the side of the pan and around, just so that I can use the full size or surface area of the pan without anything burning and sticking to it. There we go. Right, so my onion is softening and we're getting a bit of caramelization, therefore a bit more flavour, so let's start adding the other ingredients. It calls for 3 cloves of garlic. We don't use cloves, we use jarred garlic, and I would say that's about 3 cloves. So 2 of those, bosh. Ginger, about the same, bosh. And it asks for curry powder, 2 tablespoons, so that doubles up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bang! That gets mixed through. And fried up, just to activate those spices. It's quite a dry mix. Make sure it doesn't start smoking too much on you, otherwise I am going to have to start up the range hood. But yeah, I am happy with that. Stuck to the bottom a little bit, but one of the next ingredients is water, so that will deglaze that quite nicely, and I will turn the heat off. Right, next 3 ingredients is tomatoes, lentils and water. Now we're using fresh tomatoes this time as opposed to the tinned pre-chopped ones, and these just do get chopped up, diced it says, straight into the pan. I'll lash on and get the rest of these done. Now the next bit's going to be fun. It calls for, or the recipe calls for, 1 cup of lentils, red split lentils. We're doubling that up to 2 cups. Where's me mark for 2 cups? There it is. Or a pint of lentils, if you're talking old money. It doesn't say anything about washing or rinsing them, so I'm assuming that they still want all of the starch on there, and in that goes. Now the really fun part to that, you're supposed to add 6 cups of water. Now a cup is 250 ml, so that makes it 1.5 litres of water that needs to go in there. I hope I'm going to have, well, it's actually going to be 3 litres of water because we're doubling the recipe. Presumably the lentils are going to soak up an awful lot of that, and it's going to, some of it is going to boil off as it's simmering. But that is going to be an awful lot measuring out for me, so I will get on with that and see how much we actually get into the pot. Oh, before I forget, so this is the first 500 ml of water that's going in, and I did want to make sure that the stuff that was sticking to the bottom has been dislodged, because we don't want a dry mix stuck down there and burning on us, because that's just going to taint dinner and we don't want that. So that has now been deglazed. Well, I wasn't sure it would do it, but that is 3 litres of water added to that. So now that gets turned on and brought up to heat and allowed to simmer for 30 minutes. While that's getting on, I will get on with some other stuff that needs doing. Right, even though the recipe doesn't call for it, quite possibly because, you know, lentils are a pulse-nut form of carbohydrate, it doesn't call for rice, but to my mind you can't necessarily have a curry without rice, or naan bread or something like that. And since we don't have any naan bread, rice is going to be it. So 1 cup of rice per person. There's 4 of that, so that's 4 cups of rice. I popped it in the sieve and run cold water over it for a couple of minutes, get all the starch off the outside. Normally supposed to cook rice, wash rice before you cook it in any case. Some salt. With it being a curry, chances are you would normally use basmati rice, but this is not. This is an Australian medium grain rice, because, well, it was cheap and it's to hand. So I will get the water in and start that off cooking in the background. Bosh. That's one less thing to worry about. So the last of the big ingredients that needs to be prepped is cauliflower. Again, it calls for a half of a cauliflower, so we're going to do a whole one, and I am certainly hoping it is going to fit in the wok with everything else, because that would get embarrassing. And this just gets cut down into florets. Get all those green leaves off. Alright, start cutting the florets at the bottom. Nothing wrong with using the stalk. Just make sure that it's, because it can be a little bit woody, you just want to make sure that you've got relatively thin succulent bits so that they'll soften up when you cook. Waste not, want not. It's all food at the end of the day. And we'll just pare these florets down to size, because that maybe is a bit big. Break these ones off, because they are small and ideal. Right, so now we are just waiting on everything cooking through. So the lentil mix is coming up to temperature quite nicely. As you can see, bubbles are starting to form on the top, so I am going to turn the heat on that down to a simmer and start a timer. That has to cook through for half an hour, so I'll see you back here, well, in half an hour my time, in a few seconds yours. Alright, so that has been going for 30 minutes now. I can certainly see that the lentils have pretty much cooked through. I'll just try. Yeah, almost. Right, final 2 ingredients. It calls for a half bag of spinach. We're using frozen, so bosh, that goes in. And there is the cauliflower that was prepared earlier, didn't lose any over the side, good. Mix that through. It's not particularly thick. I'm hoping that in the remaining sort of 5, I might give it 10 minutes, just because that frozen spinach will have lowered the temperature, and as you can see it's stopped bubbling. It's looking good, but that'll get it back up to temperature and allow the cauliflower a chance to cook through. And it is possible I'm going to need to thicken that, which it doesn't call for in the recipe, but hey. Right, 10-minute timer has gone off. Let's see how we're doing. Well, that is still super runny. so that is definitely going to need to be thickened. And that, let me get a knife, that cauliflower is not looking cooked through. It's cooking, but that still needs another, I would say, 5 minutes. Maybe it is due to the fact that we've doubled the mixture, therefore the cooking time has gone out ever so slightly. Fair enough, we'll check back in shortly. Right, so we have had the extra cooking time. Oh, that feels as if it's catching a bit on the bottom. Hopefully that hasn't burned. Still very runny. Nah, not happy with that. That's going to have to get thickened. Okay, let me just double check to make sure I'm happy with the state of the cauliflower. That'll do. Right, general all-purpose thickener. So you can see how runny that is. This is arrowroot. For a pan that size, I am going to go for 2 heaped tablespoons. Add some water. You don't need a huge amount of water, just enough to get it into a paste. And that is not a huge amount of water at all. See, that thins down very, very quickly. Get it around, mix it through, and you can see where that is thickening up pretty much straight away, which is what arrowroot does when under heat. Yeah, maybe it's a fraction more. You can certainly see how it's not anywhere near as runny. But that was quite a large pot. Let's get that in. And that has thickened right up. Sweet. That can get taken off the heat right now. Service! Oh, excuse me. So Pam's not having a huge amount of rice. But make sure there's a reasonable amount of the curry there. There you are. Yeah.
Oh, thank you when you finish throwing it around.
Catch!